Hey there, this is Calvin Baker with Mini Pots, and I am bringing you a flip through of Brethren, Skirmish Tabletop Wargame, the historical rule book, written by Matthew Sutton O'Connor, who does a really wonderful job. He has his own website. I will put a link to it in my description. And this is a fast-paced and brutal wargame. Fun and fast, you can play a lot of different scenarios with small warbands or large armies. Within this book, you will find all the rules you need to play a game of Brethren. Rules for terrain, rules for conducting siege battles. Both are true, both are great, and it is generic rules. It does not give you special rules for, let's say, if you're playing Norse, Vikings, Saxon, Rus, Greek, Roman. It does not give you faction-specific rules. This is a generic rule set. And I'm bringing this is a print on demand by Amazon. It is really well. I'm going to go over my review or flip through, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit. Some things I really like and wish that other rule sets would do. And from that, I will let you make your own judgment. Hopefully, and hopefully this will see a little bit more action. This is also I'm doing this because I think right now we're seeing a large interest in historical Dark Age / medieval rule sets. I'm going to zoom out for a second, and now you can see more of my wonderful messy desk, but here we go. It has the table of contents. It does not have an index. However, I don't think you'll need it because of how detailed the contents are. It starts here, which this is a fast-paced skirmish war game designed to show a wide range of combat scenarios in the ancient and time periods. Whether you are recreating a real historical battle or creating your own scenarios, keeping battles in setting, or pitching hypothetical armies against each other, you are able to tell any story you want and be as competitive as or as easygoing as you desire. Whatever your playstyle, there it is. There it is, a place for it in here for you, which I've got to agree. I think that this is. I don't think it gets bogged down in super details, but think it has everything you need to do a small skirmish game. What do I need? This is the place where you would start, which I think is fantastic. I think it's fantastic that it's right up front. It basically illustrates everything. From this, you can tell you need miniatures, measuring devices, dice, and tokens. The tokens are at the back, and you can print those, copy it, and print it. It's clearly labeled on the top of the page that you can do that. Miniatures. You will need a selection of miniatures for the faction or factions that you will like to play. Victrix miniatures, Warlord games, and Graving Beasts, as well as many others all create miniatures suitable for this game. Measuring tool. A measuring device that allows you to measure inches, a measuring tape, or ruler are perfect for this. Tokens. There's some actions in Brethren that need to be remembered as they can influence different phases within a turn or sometimes over multiple turns. To help with this, tokens are provided at the back of this book. Dice. You will need at least 12 six-sided dice in the game to play effectively. Multiple colors are also advised. Scale 1/56 or 28 millimeter, and it gives a basing option. I think this is really cool because it shows something that I had not thought about until cascading miniatures recently, where you have miniatures on different base size doing conflict. So I have a 28 and a 25 millimeter. You could see I could fit a lot more of these 25 millimeters, even though there's only 3 millimeters difference around this larger mini. That meaning he would have received more attacks from a bunch of these little guys than from just one or two bigger guys, or however many you happen to pile up on him. And so I think it's important when a mini game does base size. You'll find this in Forbidden Psalm. You'll find this in, well, all of the Forbidden Psalm games that I've seen so far. Your Warhammer, but you probably already suspected that. I'm sure it is. I've watched enough reviews of Baron's War and Pillage to see that they refer to base sizes as well. Infantry 25 millimeter round, cavalry 25 by 50 rectangular or 40 millimeter round, artillery 60 millimeter, chariots 50 by 100, elephants 60 millimeter round, and other bases sizes are permitted as long as both players agree. as different size bases can affect the balance of the game, which I just sort of try to illustrate here. A unit refers to a single model unless they are part of a team or weapons team. How are distances measured? For most units, distances are measured from the edge of a model's base. For example, if a hero activating a unit close to them, the distance is measured from base outward. For ranged attacks, they are measured from the attacker's base to the opponent's base. There might be some models that do not have bases. In these cases, measured to or from the closest part of the model. What is a phase? A phase is a portion of the game where specific things happen. Am I allowed to measure distances before deciding what to do? You can pre-measure before activating a hero to see who is in range of being activated by them. You can pre-measure to see who is in range of being the target of a morale check. You cannot pre-measure for any other instances. So you can't pre-measure for movement or to get your firing range. How high do modifiers go? And basically it illustrates that it's a d6 dice, so no modifiers will go above 6, no modifiers will go below 1. Tells you what the token's for. I think that's sort of explanatory. Core rules, he divides it up into different phases. Priority phase, which is basically your initiative, activation, combat, and morale. Deployment. He comes up with 2 different forms of deployment depending on the size of your game. If you have a small skirmish game, you might do a unit, which is a miniature, and your opponent does one. Or if you have a larger game, you could do a group of miniatures and your opponent does the same thing. Where to deploy? 4 inches away from your deployment edge. And this is on a 3-foot battle mat. I'm going to be doing this probably, if I ever get a chance to, on a much smaller battle mat. I think it'll work fine, but that's just a side note. Actions, he defines the actions. Move, most of your units will have a 6-inch movement, and he illustrates this where you would have, and I'm going to be back with my Tempestus Aquilon, have a 6-inch movement, and you measure from the front of the base, and this guy would end up over there. He defines moving around obstacles, over obstacles. Running is sort of interesting, that you would move your base movement, then you roll a d6, and you add that number of inches to your base movement. Wait, this is basically a type of overwatch. Prepare, this is if you're getting ready for an attack or to attack. However, it does not carry over to the next turn. Although prepare is only 1 action point, this ends the unit's activation when assigned. Using prepare gives that unit a +1 modifier to attack rolls. Prepare stays in effect until the unit is next activated. So you're being attacked, you could use prepare to receive a charge. That's the right term. This action can only be used aimed by units with ranged weapons, and when a unit uses the aim action, they add a +1 to their ranged attack roll, giving you a higher chance of hitting. Then he has your firing or loose, which is in loose and arrow phase. The effects of cover. This is something interesting that I'm not seeing in very many rule books in any case. They may be out there in full force, but I've not experienced it. And if there's one of your friendly units is between you and your target, you roll to see if you miss the target. This reminds me of you missed your friend. This reminds me a lot of the D&D stuff if you're firing into combat. On a 4, 5, or 6, you miss. On a 1 to 3, you hit your friend. I'm guessing if you had done the aim option, you would add a +1 to both rolls, which would make sense to me anyway. If you have a comment about something like that, please leave it in the comments section. Maybe you have a different perspective. Group move. Now, combat heroes can order, at the cost of 2 action points, can order groups of your smaller troops to follow one order, such as group move, group run, and he defines that there. Form up in a shield. He gives examples of the shield formations, what it takes to renew a shield formation. If your leader tells his troops to charge, now this is that. Charge, failing to charge, what happens? Reaction, prepare or loose. Combat. He gives clear illustrations of combat and the different illustrations of supporting with pikes, supporting with spears, determining who fights when in combat, and how many attack rolls you get, wounds, when combat is lost, what happens, desperate, and you have more than one wound, desperation, this is when morale, but he cannot retreat, when you need to take a morale check, the morales of the different units. He defines the different units here. Combat hero, support hero, warriors, teams, weapon teams. And you have your combat hero, armored warriors, unarmored warriors. Later on in this, he'll illustrate that this type of setup here is a 250 point battle force, which he suggests as a starting point for you. He gives effects of, like if you have a chariot, how it would turn, elephant, how it would move, as well as the cost of movement to about face and turning left or right. Something that is really cool is that if your elephant fails its morale, it goes stampeding through whatever direction. The interesting thing is this reminded me a lot of some rules from the old Warhammer 40k where the orcs could do something similar where their different parts of their troops would go rampaging through the friendly troops and possibly kill them. Which is, if that was your team, not so cool. If you're the opponent, it'd be sort of funny, but it is what it is. Anyway, so he does equipment, does a brief example or description of the equipment, such as sword, one hand. A sword is a simple but elegant weapon. They are very popular among most cultures and easy to get a hold of. They provide no modifiers to lesser trained troops, but have a +1 to hit modifier for those with the time to train their use. Spear, he also has a Danax, which is +2 to attacks, having weapons in both hands, a spear, lance, effects of a shield, pike. Now this is interesting because he defines a pike as being able to attack up to 3 inches away, but it is not you don't throw it. Supporting with a pike. Pikes cannot be used in close combat, although they can be used to support allies in combat. They can support up to their range of 3 inches. However, they must be in base contact with either the unit in combat itself or the unit supporting the unit in combat. So, I don't have appropriate middle-aged minis, so please forgive me for this. I'm looking for 3 minis with the same size bases. So the guy in the back, these are all 25 millimeter bases. The guy in the back, he can add to his combat value by the fact that he has a pike. It's actually, we can see here, it's actually a spear. But let's pretend it's a fantasy skirmish game, so just roll along with me. If you made it this far, you can hang with pretending that this is a pike, even though you know it's not. He would add his attack dice to this guy. So if he has 2 attack, now he would have 3 because he's supporting him from the back rank, which I think is a neat option, or a neat feature of the pike. And that would be for like your Roman stuff. And you can see I need to get some middle age / dark age minis. Terrain, he gives different rules for terrain. This is something that is interesting to me, and it's throughout the book, and I'm going to go back through just to illustrate it. The author of this, Matthew, pardon me, I hope that I call you Matthew. It's okay that I call you Matthew. He does these wonderful illustrations, and he does the nice thing of telling you where he gets them from. He shows this little house. It's from Battle Systems. Most people can get Battle Systems, if not locally, through Amazon or something. They're scenery sets. Wattle Palisade Fence from Sarissa Precision. They make wonderful wood MDF sets, and you can see clearly illustrated the same with the Celtic Roundhouse, Sarissa Precision. Fences. Now something else, throughout this book, when there's pictures involved, he clearly illustrates everything. And I think it's just, I wish other rule books went to the labor that he did in it, in their rule book. I can foresee this, if word got out about this book, I can see it being utilized a little bit more frequently than it has been. Siege type of stuff where you would have raised platforms, ladders, cliffs, falling, force builder. 0 to 250 points. 251 to 5, and he lists the number of heroes that you could have for that. And this is your primary leader followed by other supporting leaders, or supporting heroes. And he goes into how to buy a unit, and he gives an example, and this is your 248 point troop that we saw earlier on, and the amount of, it is a WYSIWYG, so you have in your Freeman these guys back here, there's 7 of them, and axe and second-hand weapon here, axe and horn, which I don't see the horn, but I'm sure it's probably there, spear and shield there, bow, Danax right there, axe and shield. And the experienced warriors, or armored, what is the term here? Come on, get with the program. The warriors. Or he calls them raiders. And these are Vikings by Vitrix, which we've seen a lot of on YouTube right now. But you have your Danax, second-hand weapon, axe and a second-hand weapon, spear and shield, and that's a total of 73 points for that one section. Then your leader, which is 59 points. Now your leader, when you buy your units, it's assumed that they have armor, but you do have the weapons. And why do I say that? It's because the number of attacks. Defense of 4, you go down here to your untrained infantry, defense of 2. And if you start getting experienced infantry, defense of 3. So they're a little bit more, they know what to look out for. You'd add a shield, their defense would then go up to 4. Your combat hero has a choice of 4 different skills that he can choose from: melee specialist, range specialist, command specialist, defense specialist. Your support hero only has 3, and these are special things that they can do during combat to set them apart, to help your troops out. Gives an example of basic combat missions. He's suggesting for like a 250 point battle, a 2x3 combat, 2x3 board, which I'm thinking like that might be a little bit larger than your kill team or your Age of Sigmar board. He gives examples of these different missions. Then he also has Siege in the very back. Again, he gives costs of the different equipment that you need, and then defenses as well. And he gives a series of missions. Something else to make note of here is he does have 2 more books, Armies of the Dark Ages and Armies of the Ancients, in which he details, you can go to his website and he will detail these 2 different books and what is inside, as well as he lists and more. So gives a source of miniatures, source of scenery, gripping beasts. Sorry, I had Siri decide to suddenly say something to me. And Sarissa Precision, Victrix, Warlord Games, and Wargames Atlantic. Something neat is that Wargames Atlantic does their downloadable STL files, and here they are. There's an example of them. Then he has your hero cards and tokens at the very back. And this is Brethren. I think it's a great addition to a historical rule set. I have not played that many historical rule sets, so I cannot tell you what sets this apart from Pillage or Baron's War or Saga or anything else, Lion Rampant. But it was accessible. I hadn't seen many reviews of it. It looked interesting, and so I thought I'd grab it and share it and make more people aware of it. The author of this does have his own walkthrough and examples of play YouTube. Take a look for them. I think in that case he's using Greek or Roman troops. So thank you. This is, of course, unpaid, or I was not solicited. I didn't ask for the rule book or anything like this. It was something that I've been interested in for some time. I had seen Pillage, and I thought, this is a little bit more readily accessible to me. So at this point, I'll just grab this. Give it a look, and hopefully at some point I'll be able to do a example of this game in the future. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this and got something out of it. Please remember to like and subscribe, and happy gaming.